Hey everyone, it's JPC again, and this is Back in My Day episode 8. This week I wanted to talk about performance anxiety, which is a question I see Wahujin gets frequently on stream and in Discord. I field this question as well from time to time, just not quite as often. A couple of caveats. Once again, I'm not a professional. I do not recommend my experiences be used as a template for others. These are just going to be examples of what I've noticed in myself, what I've done about those things, and why I did them. If you're enjoying the content, obviously, I would like you to like, comment, subscribe, do all the typical YouTube things. It helps me out a lot and gives me a little virtual pat on the back. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. All right, let's get into it. First, let's talk about what is performance anxiety. Um, I think a lot of people know what performance anxiety is. I want to talk about what I used to think it was. When I played Dota, back in the day, I would not even want to queue. I had that much anxiety over playing. Um, and I think that it was all pre-queue. Once I got into a game, I really didn't have a whole lot of concerns back then. Usually it's because I was queuing with somebody, which is what I would kind of wait around for. So I had a different kind of performance anxiety back in the day. Now with Valorant, I have zero issue queuing. I will queue up. I don't have a problem with that. I think that there are days I don't want to play, but it isn't a performance thing. It's more of I'm just not feeling it emotionally, mentally, physically. Usually it's around do I feel up to the task um, versus when I was playing Dota, I literally was afraid to queue. So it's kind of a combination or a split for me between actually performing and kind of a social aspect. So when I played Dota, the last thing that I wanted to do was get into a game and have to deal with toxicity. So my hesitancy to queue back um, back in my Dota days was more of a social thing. Like I knew I sucked, and I knew I wasn't going to perform well, but I just didn't want to hear about how I wasn't going to perform well. Um, they've put things in place now where you can mute teams. You could do that before, but you couldn't mute things like pings and stuff. So like you'd have somebody just ping in my entire trek across the map if I was rotating or something. So it didn't make it. It made it unfun that I knew I wasn't good, but the people I played with, was always solo queue when this was happening, were just awful and toxic. Now, my performance anxiety is after I get into queue, because again, I don't really have a concern about queuing outside of do I feel up to it. But now when I get in game, um, I hate not playing well. I hate feeling like I'm outclassed. And some of that still is dealing with kind of toxic people, but a lot of it is pressure I put on myself um, to feel. I think Wahujin referred to it as an ego thing. It was a very interesting perspective that he had on it. I want to be the best person in the lobby. I don't need to top frag. I'm okay with that. But if I am getting mentally outplayed, if I'm getting strategically outplayed, um, I feel awful and it starts to affect my gameplay in game. So what I experience now is very different. Um, and I lose confidence as the game goes on versus again when I was playing Dota. Um, Solo queuing in Dota, my confidence was low going in, and I never even wanted to queue. But again, more social versus playing from that perspective. At least that's my opinion on it. Um, okay, so what have I done? I guess to alleviate some of that. Um, a lot of it for me is preparation going in, um, or knowing how to deal with the mid round, mid game kind of performance. The reason that I don't feel the social pressure anymore has a lot to do with confidence. I know that I I'm gonna do the things that I'm gonna do, and the only reason that I'm not going to perform well is because I'm being outclassed. So there's a it's positive intent. Believe that you're going to go in. I think it's very powerful if you have the confidence going in, even if it's possible that you're going to get stopped. So before I go further than that, I think it's important to recognize I'm plat three, right? I just played this morning. It's Sunday as I'm recording this. I lost both of my games. But I didn't go into either game with low confidence. I know how to play. I know how to play my game right now, and I have a lot to work on. I know that I'm not good at this game. So in terms of like, if I play against five immortals, I'm going to get stopped, right? I know that there are plenty of people that are much better than me, but if the matchmaking is working as intended, then there should be some balance going into there, and I have faith in that balance, right? I don't think I'm going to get a Smurf every game against me. I don't think I'm going to get a cheater. I don't think I'm going to get a stream sniper. I think a lot of the confidence of hitting the Q button is in that mental preparation, that belief in myself. What I have to do then next is find ways to recover from the mid game confidence pressures and performance pressures. And I think that is there's a couple of things. One of it is subconsciously. I'll talk a little bit about visualization that I try to do, and the other one is just breathing techniques or relaxation techniques. So I'll kind of go uh, into those things. Visualization, for those that don't know, um, it's creating like detailed mental images of yourself performing, um, visualizing yourself succeeding, right? And you're actually training your brain to believe that it's possible. Um, it helps reduce anxiety going in, and it does increase confidence. So the first time I heard about this, I don't even remember how old I was, but Wayne Rooney, who is a retired European footballer, who used to play for Manchester United, for anybody who doesn't follow sports ball. Um, he would visualize the night before games, um, him scoring, him getting hat tricks, him doing some, massive bicycle kick. He would visualize it. And one of the things that about, and I'll kind of talk about it right now, is about being specific. So a couple things about visualization. I'll kind of go back into the Wayne Rooney thing. Be as specific as possible about your visualization. The more detail you can add, the more powerful it can be. You see yourself succeeding in those situations, and it can help again subconsciously push you through that. Always make them as positive as possible. And I want to come back to this as well, because this is a challenge that I have. Um, Focus on things that you want to happen, not things that you don't want to happen, right? And I think that's extremely important for that. Repeat the visualization. The more you practice it, the more you do it, the more effective it can be. And then look to visualize different situations. And I'll come back to this a little bit as well. So I'll go back to the Wayne Rooney example with this the specific as possible, as detailed as possible. He would um, go to the staff before the night before, or whatever, the day before, and always verify what color jersey his team was playing, which version, as well as what the opponents were wearing. He was trying to find out who was playing, who was expected to start, who was injured or not injured, or whatnot. Were they going to play their normal keeper? Were they going to play their normal defenders? Um, he would try to get as much information as possible to visualize the night before all these things, and he attributed a lot of his success to that. And again, it makes sense. It's one of the reasons that I started doing this. If I talk a little bit about the positive visualizations and why that's a struggle for me. So the reason that's a struggle for me is I will think about, I can visualize whatever uh, strafing, taking my time, right? I try to focus on mechanics versus other things. I'll go into that in a second as well. I try to focus on mechanics. I try to focus on 1v2 type of fights, 1v3 type of fights. type of things, and it's stressful for me. I shouldn't say stressful. It's difficult for me to maintain positivity there because I also go back and remember the last time that this happened and it didn't work out. So in the middle of my visualization, I start thinking about times I failed doing it, and that's one of my biggest struggles with visualization. I tend to use my experiences when I'm doing these things, and it creates a complication, right? I need to think about the successes and ignore those things. So the challenge. The hardest part for me with Valorant and doing this with Valorant is um, I don't know what map I'm going to get, right? So you automatically remove that detail out. I don't know what opponents I'm going to get, which agents or whatever. So that removes that detail. Um, I don't know what agent I'm going to play because they play different agents on different maps. So depending on the map I get, I can't visualize those things, which means also can't visualize using utility and things like that. So what I try to focus on when I do visualization is taking my time when doing gunfights, aiming for the head, not panicking, because I can just fill in, kind of phantom bodies within that. So I don't have to worry about was it a phoenix or was it a jet or whatever. It's just a phantom body in a scenario, and that helps me out a lot. Take my time. Again, there's deterioration over the course of a game that I have to figure out, but that's one of the reasons that my practices I think go well because I imagine that with my practices, and then I imagine that with my DMs. I visualize it for DMs, and then I visualize it for games. So I think it's powerful. I think there are limitations to it when it comes to video games, of course, but it is still very, very powerful to try to um, implement. Um, if you can find the right ways, I think to do it. I also want to talk about so breathing technique. So what I do between rounds is I try to reset my brain. I reset my brain by trying to do breathing when I can, and again when I remember it. So the struggle for me and why it doesn't always work is uh, I sometimes will forget. I'm so focused on what's the next thing to do, and I won't think about breathing, and I'm not thinking about my confidence levels, and I just kind of move on. It also kind of just deteriorates over the course of the game. So this is something I'm still struggling with, but when I do it, it works. And there's a couple different things you can look them up. There's diaphragmatic breathing, using your diaphragm. Let's see here. I kind of looked it up a little bit. So it's hard to do this one. Yeah, it's hard to do this one because typically you want to be laying down. I will lean back in my chair when I try to do this one. I didn't realize that's what it was called, and that's what I was doing. But I will try to do diaphragmatic box breathing, counting to four. So this is something that I've always done. There was a book. I will try to remember to put it in the description. Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. He talks about a style of breathing, a style of meditation that is based off box breathing, or at least uses box breathing. I shouldn't say based off of. And it's just about you're basically counting to four, in, counting to four, hold it, counting to four, release. Try to slow everything down. It's for meditation. It's very good. And if you have multiple seconds, um, it's really good to do between rounds when you can do it. And then there's alternate nostril breathing. You know, lie on one side, breathe. I actually saw this on, was it Positive Gamers uh, stream once. So this is very popular. Again, you can't lay down while you're playing, but if you can find ways to find some combination of laying down or leaning back or whatever it is. But breathing techniques have helped me when I remember to do them. Um, you can look these things up. I think they're very helpful for when you remember and being mindful of kind of your confidence levels. I think it's very powerful. And then the last thing here, I think, after talking about kind of what I do in preparation, or try to do when I remember to do them, the last thing here is positive self talk. So, again, I'll try to remember to put it in the description, but the inner game of tennis. So, there's a very good kind of description about how we talk to ourselves and how that can impact us. So, if you again, I'll put it in the description, but if you can remember, or if you can check out the inner game of tennis, have you not actually read it before? Some very good kind of how we talk to ourselves and what it means to be positive to yourself and what that can do. And in high level, I know I'm not going to do this justice, just like every other time I try to talk about things, but one of the things that they talk about, and I thought was very good, is you kind of have two parts of you that are performing. You have the part of you that's um, subconsciously going through the motions of what you remember to do, and right, the strafing, shoot, burst, burst, move, burst, and how you do those things. And if you fail doing it, if you verbally go, ah, what the fuck's wrong with you? You know, if you tell yourself that you did poorly, um, that makes it more difficult for your subconscious to perform better the next time. Again, they describe this with much more detail and much better um, examples and whatnot. But if you verbally get down on yourself, it actually can make it harder for you to subconsciously perform, um, because that's the part of you that has to perform. You should not be thinking about your gunfight. You should be thinking about where you want to go next, right? You have an active part and an inactive part. I don't know if that's right either. Conscious and subconscious. Again, I'll go back to that. But when I'm in the middle of a fight and I see two people, I'm not thinking about how to fight. My hands should be doing what I've practiced doing all along. And if I don't do it well enough, that means I need to practice it more. But the thing that doesn't help is failing and then turning around and berating yourself. Um, I think it's very powerful book. But positive self talk is a lot about that. So it's about replacing negative thoughts with positive ones. Ultimately, at the end of the day, so just be aware of if you do this to yourself. Even thinking it, not even saying it out loud, even thinking it can be detrimental. You just gotta be aware if you are down on yourself when you mess something up. It's okay to fail, and you should let yourself know it's okay to fail. Um, self, um, the negative self talk is it can be very challenging to overcome those type of things. So you should be looking to, if you do this, replace your negative kind of thoughts with your positive ones. Um, so like for an example, one of the things I have here is oh God, I'm so stupid. Okay, instead of saying that, I'm not perfect, but I'm learning and growing. If you can get yourself to immediately respond that way to a not successful outcome, then again, I think that, not trying to get all, granola or whatever, on things, but it's very, very important how you speak to yourself. And if you can change that mindset, if you can, it's like, oh, I'm bad. No, oh, I need to learn how to do that better, is much more powerful to yourself and for your future growth. Focus on strengths and abilities. When you're feeling down, if you can help, it can be helpful to focus on kind of your strengths, right? So if you can make a list of your strengths, um, read it out loud. Um, I think that it reemphasizes that we do have a long way to go. We're constantly working on things, but here's things I'm already good at, or things that I already know how to do. That can be difficult in gaming, I think. Again, I'm platinum 3, and if I played against some ascendants today, and I didn't do poorly, but I didn't do poorly because I didn't know that they were ascendant. If I had known that they were ascendant going in, I probably would have had a much harder time playing that, because I wasn't thinking about the things that I do well. I would have been thinking about the fact that they are literally two ranks above me, in that aspect. Um, above all else, just be kind to yourself. I think that not beating yourself up is the best way to grow. And if you can't learn if you're telling yourself how bad you do all the time. Um, yeah, so I'll kind of stop there. But positive self talk, I think, is very important. And I think it's a strong mentality pushes you to growth faster than grinding with a negative mentality. So kind of putting that out there. And I think that I do get down on myself. I'm not going to say I'm perfect about this, but I quickly recover from those things by acknowledging that. I mean, look how far I've come in less than 6 months, or in about 6 months, right? So 6 months in, I went from silver to platinum 3, and twice actually, because after the reset, I went down to silver 2 again. So I've gone from silver to platinum 2 times in 6 months. Um, that's huge, and looking at those type of things is much better than going, "Oh, I just got shit on by some sova um, on Ascent," right? Like it be positive. Be positive to yourself, be positive to your teammates. I think it also helps you be positive in communication as well. So I don't, I think it's very powerful. Don't mean to be all shrinky on everybody, but I think it's very powerful. All right, that's it. That's this week. I'll recap a little bit here. So I kind of talked a little bit about about performance anxiety, ways that I used to look at it, the performance versus the social. And I recognized what was keeping me from wanting to play, or what was keeping me from not being anxious while playing. And I've been looking for ways to mitigate those pressures. I no longer feel kind of the I don't want to queue side, but I definitely experience anxiety in the middle of games depending on how my confidence is waning. Um, Two major ways that I mentioned that I do it: visualization, which is before the fact, before going in. Um, I do this every Saturday night before I know I'm going to be on stream with Wahujin. I try to imagine myself succeeding, and like I said, it doesn't always work, but I'm not anxious going into the stream. I'm not anxious queuing up. I'm not anxious the first round. What I have to figure out now is how to fix um, the confidence waning during the game. And I mentioned kind of breathing techniques. There are some other things. There are stress techniques um, that you can do, like tension, like clenching your fist and releasing, trying to build up your tension and release the tension, and that can help a little bit. I don't find that that helps me as much outside of like when I have to do a presentation or something in front of a large group. The stress techniques are things that I do. Um, because you can't really breathe in the middle of a presentation because there's a lot of silence there. The last thing is positive self talk. Again, I think finding ways to reduce the negative statements you say to yourself go a long way to help you improve and grow. And I think that it also helps with communication to your teammates who might be, one, being down on themselves, or two, just not playing well. Figuring out how to be positive to yourself can really help you be positive to others. And I think this game, your games are a lot more fun when everyone's having a good time. And part of that is just not being stressed out. Um, all right, that's it. Thank you all for hanging out. Next week, I actually do want to talk about communication. It's also possible that I'm going to do kind of a throwaway episode if I don't have time. So Mother's Day is next week, and I don't know that I'll be able to dedicate time to doing a full fledged podcast. So I might do something like a storytelling one. Maybe I'll tell like the history of I don't know how I met with Hujin or something. That question comes up a lot too. So I don't know. I might do a storytelling one, kind of a throwaway fun episode. We will see. Thank you all for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all next week.